Do you think that the First Lady might have made a better president than you?
Of course. That's a question. But she's smart enough to know that she might not want to go through the process.
I absolutely don't agree. He has a level of patience and focus and tenacity and calm, that just doesn't, come by.
You don't have that patience.
I definitely don't.
All right, folks, welcome back. Hour number 2, Steve Malzberg Show on this Tuesday. Glad you're aboard. And we're joined by our friend, former Congressman Colonel Allen West. Hello, Congressman.
How you doing, Steve? And Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, and
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, and I hope you have you have a strong stomach for that softball question from Barbara Walters and that answer.
Well, it was amazing to me when Michelle Obama said that the president is very patient. This is the exact same president that said in the State of the Union address that if Congress does not act or basically do what I say, I will act alone. So that doesn't seem like a very patient president. And then we talk about focus. I mean, how many times do we hear the president say, I don't know, or I just found out, or I found out the same time the rest of you did this morning. So I don't know if I could agree with him being very patient and focused. But, it's typical of the left giving the Obamas the softball.
Well, she also
T-ball, actually.
Yes. She also said that he keeps his promises. Right on down the list. And of course, David Plouffe said that he believes people trust Obama when the polls say they don't. You had LZ Granderson on CNN, contributor there, who's saying that all presidents lie. It's just to what degree, if you could survive the lie. And he lied for the greater good. So, they're telling you that the sky is green and the grass is blue. And if you don't acknowledge that, then something must be wrong with you.
Well, there are 2 points that you just brought up. The point number one is the sense of relativism. All presidents lie, so we didn't do anything different. I don't recall many presidents standing up and saying those type of bold-faced lies. And, Bill Clinton lied about something, relating to a young lady in a dress, and he was held accountable somewhat. President Nixon stepped down, and we're not seeing that from this president who lied. And the other thing is, this sense of, the ends justify the means. So if we want to have this thing called Obamacare go through, it doesn't matter if we lie. It doesn't matter if we deceive you. We have 4 Americans that died in Benghazi. It doesn't matter that we abandoned them to die. It is all for whatever we determine is the better good, to include, you don't get to keep your insurance plan because we were the ones to determine whether or not it's a good insurance plan or not. So this is what America has bought into, and I am praying that we can wake up from this stupor so that we can get this country back on track.
Well, absolutely. And, one of the things that have come to light recently, and actually weeks ago, when Kathleen Sebelius, talking about health care, testified, and she was asked if it's possible that convicted felons are now working as navigators for Obamacare and would have people's private information such as Social Security numbers. She said there were no background checks. Yes, it's possible. The media couldn't have cared less about that. They let that just go away. And then we had hearings about 2 weeks ago, and they asked 4 different security experts to say yes or no. Is the website of Obamacare, is it secure? No, 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 no. And now CNN just reported that there are emails that they've obtained from the White House emails that show that there were huge security concerns prior to the Obamacare website launch. And just today, before this revelation, we had more reports from hackers that have been interviewed who are saying there's absolutely no security on the Obamacare website that they can't get through. So, I mean, to me, anybody who risks putting their information out there really ought to think twice.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, identity theft is a huge thing down in South Florida, and how horrible for, someone to have that happen at this time when you're out there shopping for, gifts for your loved ones and things of that nature. And today, when the president stood up and spoke, you did not hear him say one single thing about it. This is what is happening, Steve. They have created such a sense of desperation. They have had, millions of Americans kicked off their health care plan. They don't have anywhere to go. And now if they do choose to go to this health care exchange, which is still sporadically working, they risk the chance of their private, personal information being co-opted, and that puts them in even more of a desperate situation. This is a train wreck, as Senator Max Baucus said. It is not going to get any better. But the thing is this, and I hope that a lot of my Republican allies and former colleagues are listening, they have walked into their own minefield. Don't help them and don't show them the way out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking to Alan West, former Congressman, Colonel Alan West, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me ask you about a new poll that just came out as we turn to foreign policy, which is another disaster, and recognized by the American people as Obamacare a disaster is, and his trustworthiness and his honesty. For the first time in nearly 40 years, a majority of Americans, according to Pew, believe the United States is less important around the world and that it should mind its own business. And they also believe that by 56 to 34, more people disapprove of Obama's foreign policy than approve. So even on that, he's in the tank.
Let me give you an excellent case in point. 10 years ago, I was sitting in Iraq with, a few other young men and women of the United States military. We were right in the center of the Middle East. We had an impact. We had an influence in the Middle East. We were trusted in the Middle East, even going back to when we did our action in Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And look at what is happening today. The largest Arab nation in the world, who used to be an ally of ours, Egypt, does not trust us, to the point where now they're talking with Vladimir Putin and promising the Russians that they can have a naval seaport, a sea base in Egypt. Think about that. Think about now what is happening. We have sent Joe Biden over to try to, calm the fears in the Pacific when you see China making the big land grab over the Senkaku Islands, which are owned by Japan, and we recognize that. But yet we're kowtowing to China and the Scarborough Shoals, which China is also making an incursion that is affecting the Philippines. So you are seeing not just a loss of credibility and trust and confidence here on domestic policy. You're absolutely right. You're seeing it with our foreign policy, the botched deal with Iran. There is no halting to Iran's nuclear program, which is something that the president said a couple of weeks ago on a late Saturday night. They're continuing to march on, and as a matter of fact, they know that the president doesn't have any credibility, so they have accused our own president of lying.
Right, lying about what's in the agreement. And not only that, Congressman, we now find out. Remember the scenario? He wanted to shake the president of Iran's hand, couldn't do it at the UN, so we called him on the phone, and that sparked the talks. Turned out the talks had been going on for months and months and months, and while they were going on, we released an Iranian scientist, and these bums over there didn't release one of our prisoners.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got Pastor Saeed Abedini, who has been there for over a year. And then look at North Korea. North Korea has American Kenneth Bae and also an 85-year-old Korean War veteran that they're not releasing. And this is what happens when you lose complete respect at home and abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Congressman, it's always great to talk to you, sir. We are posted on my Facebook page, so as promised, and I'm proud of that picture, and I thank you very much. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks. Take care, Steve.
Take care. That's Colonel Alan West, ladies and gentlemen, former U.S. Congressman from the great state of Florida. Boy, you talk about a half hour of guests. We go from Congressman West. We're going to go for the first time on this show to Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, over to Andy McCarthy, the great Andy McCarthy. That's like the troika. It's a troika, maybe not the troika, because I don't know what it's the troika of. It could be the troika. Anyway, I can't wait to speak to Fred and to Andy. When we come back, first Fred and then Andy, and then later on in the show, Michael Yan, who is a former Army Special Forces author now and photographer. He is on the border, Syria and Turkey, and he will be doing a hit with us live. Pretty wild. Can't wait for that as well. Always something good going on right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. You know it. You love it. You know where it is. It's on Newsmax television and radio.